Hello, everyone. Thank you for following me to another Sunday. Let's see here. Fresh off of teaching the last day of my biotuning intensive course that ended yesterday. So, welcome to new biotuning practitioners. Thank you all for spending the time and the energy and the money to transform your lives and become a new type of holistic practitioner. Sort of a Star Trek 21st century high-tech sound vibrational therapist. Meantime, today here is the soundtrack where you can go to get the soundtrack for today. scientificsounds.com/Nowz. For those of you who are new, you won't understand what Nowz mean. We covered that last time, but we will flesh it out a bit today. Here's where you can go to make comments or ask a question about anything that we discuss here. scientificsounds.com/ask-a-question. And here's where you can go to my YouTube channel to see all of the broadcasts I've done up to this point. I think this might be 94 or something insane like that. If you're new, go back. Go to this channel and scroll down and look at the titles. Some of those are pretty... some are 3 parts. 3-part on esoteric anatomy, a 3-part on the chakras, 3 parts of this, 3 parts of that. Some are individual ones. I did one whole broadcast on alphabetology, the meaning of all the letters in your name, and numerology and stuff like that. There's a lot. When we talk about, let's go up here. Last time we talked about the concept of the news. I thought was sort of funny, and a revelation I had at one point with what the news meant, where the news is the plural form of new. So basically the news is a bunch of new things stacked up together. All of them together equals the news. So that word was sort of transformed for me. Many English words, if you analyze them at a deeper level, have the esoteric secrets behind them revealed. For instance, the concept of understanding. I mean, the word says it. I stand under you. I release myself from being in the lead or right or having my own idea. I release that and I stand under to receive something. Then we transformed that into sort of the new format of the news, which is now, which is the Nowz. Sort of a reinvent the concept of the news, because the newest of the new is now, and now continues forever, and is always a new now. So really, the news from an esoteric news channel would be the Nowz, which is why I came up with this, the Nowz. Except, of course, I gave it a twist, because when I talk about the Nowz and the this is my news channel, right? My Nowz channel. Well, the Nowz that I'm nowing tend to be off the chart and a little askew and strange. I've always sort of been that way. I've never quite fit in with the crowd. I've always been a little sort of, politically incorrect. So I tend to maybe get myself in trouble sometimes. There was that period of time when the May 9th broadcast from last year was banned, censored, and removed from YouTube because I spent 5 minutes talking about the V word, the V word, and what's going on. I'm sort of afraid to mention it now. And that is something that should not be. The fact that I am being censored from talking about anything, particularly in America, where that's supposed to be sacrosanct, freedom of expression, being able to criticize the powers that be, that is no longer the case. When it comes to the medical world and the things that the medical world wants to push and make the most money with, you can't talk about those now. You have been censored. I did appeal that, by the way. I appealed my discussion of how the body works with DNA and RNA and the courier in between, and then how that relates to the V word. And that's what got it banned, a 5-minute discussion about how that works and actually what a brilliant idea it is, but that you have statistics that always work against you. Nothing is perfect, and the imperfections are being hidden. Anyway, aside from that, go back and watch that one. That was the Esoteric Anatomy Part 3 last year, May 9th. I appealed it, and it got reinstated, which made me feel good. Which means that Facebook has a robot that looks for keywords. Now, who tells YouTube and this robot to be looking for keywords that include keywords like that would get you censored? Who's telling them that that's a word that you should censor? There's a good question. But I appealed that on rational grounds and gave them the time signature where I began talking about it, and a human being looked at it and agreed with me and said, no, you were making an intelligent, rational discussion about the pros and cons, and that's fine. And I thought, that's good. On the other hand, my personal Facebook channel, I have a personal Facebook and a professional Facebook. Professional Facebook is Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, and my personal Facebook was Jeffrey Thompson. And one day I'm on Facebook, going through stuff, and I got a notice, a warning notice, and then another warning notice, and then my feed disappeared. I had been hacked and then banned from Facebook, and my account removed. And Facebook has no recourse. There's no customer service. There's no phone number to call. There's no email to write a complaint. There is no recourse at all. There's nothing you can do. You get banned, you don't know why. They're not telling you why. They're just saying that you broke the rules of the community service, and you don't know what that is. It gives you one link that you can click to, which is general rules of community service. You've got no idea what happened, what you did, what you didn't do, if you were hacked, or have no idea. At one point, I did go on Google and do a search and found a place where I could apply for a review, and I submitted that, but there was no confirmation that the review was even received or that it was ever reviewed. I was just banned. This could happen to any one of you today. You'd have no idea why, and there would be nothing you could do about it. There's nobody to complain to. There's nobody to reach out to. So I couldn't access my professional account, so I had to open up a new Facebook account. So I am there again, but lost all my contacts and all the people I knew. But that is the 21st century, a new 21st century of control and censorship. That we always have to be aware of. Human beings are funny creatures, It also falls to the 80-20 rule. I've discussed before once. That's statistics. Statistically, 80% of a bell curve will be this way, and 20% out at the edge will be another way that doesn't conform to the regular. For instance, you go get a blood test, and you'll see that you have the values of the different tests that were done on your blood, and over here there will be a column, a bracket of the normal range that your blood needs to be within. And the normal range is based on statistical averages of large population groups of people and what their blood showed. There's no absolute range. Different labs will have slightly different ranges of normal depending on which studies that they use to create their brackets. It's the same thing in the discussion when we talk about states of consciousness and brain waves. The concept of brain waves, beta, alpha, theta, delta, epsilon, gamma, and all the rest, each one of those brainwave brackets where, let's say, beta is between 13 hertz and 30, and then they discovered gamma, so they extended the range of beta to 38. And the next one down, which is alpha, where it's 13 at the top end and 7 at the bottom end, or 8, depending on which textbook you read. Alpha may be 14 to 8 in this textbook, and 7 to 13 in this textbook, and on and on. And the reason is because the brainwave brackets are just averages of statistical values of large population groups of people on EEG, and this study showed this bracket and this one showed this bracket, so it's a little funky. The human body is designed the same way. Everything in the universe is designed the same way. As soon as you start looking at the broad picture of things, everything falls into this 80-20 bell curve rule. 80% of my body is, quote, supporting tissue, blood and bone and sinew and muscle and fascia and the supporting stuff that gives it its structure. 20% on that bell curve is controlling tissue, brain, spinal curve, nerve roots, spinal cord nerve roots, autonomic, nervous system. So it's 20% is controlling, and 2% of that 20% is the super control. In the body's case, it would be the autonomic nervous system. Inside the hypothalamus, it would be the anterior hypothalamic nuclei and the posterior hypothalamic nuclei, which is the origin of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Master system that controls the whole body. In society, same thing. 80% of the people are, I hate to say it, supporting tissue. The structure of society, the people, the working class, the people who get up every day with an alarm clock and they drive to work in a traffic jam and they sit in a cubicle or something, or they go to work and build houses, or they're plumbers, or they're executives, or people who work in a corporation who do all kinds of different jobs and go back and forth to work for their whole life and have babies and maybe squeeze out a vacation over a weekend, because Americans don't get vacations anymore. We don't get vacations. Every place else in the world does. Europe does, Asia does, the Italians get 2 months of vacations. Regardless, what I'm getting at is that 80% of our population is supporting tissue, and 20% is controlling tissue. Government and multinational corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations, they're the ones who control actually what's going on. Government is not actually in control. Government is bought and paid for by huge money interests. It's called lobbying. We used to call that bribery, but no, they changed the word and then made it okay. 2% is the true controlling of what goes on in the world. the ultra elite. And the ultra elite secret organizations, for instance, like the Brandenburg Group or the Illuminati, or, you know what I mean? It's those kind of things that we're talking about. The master controlling forces that tell everything what to do, that are hidden behind the scenes that nobody knows about. In the spiritual world, we see the same thing. In the business world, we see the same thing. It's like when I look out on the field of what I do, vibrational medicine, which includes sound and electromagnetic field vibrations and light vibrations as a technique for influencing my health and influencing my consciousness. 80% of the people that I see out there that are making sort of binaural beat recordings are entrepreneurs who don't really know what they're doing. They've read a book, they've read an article, they say, oh, I can do that. I can untune 2 notes and go buy a keyboard and play some suspended chords and stick it on there and put myself in business as an expert. 20% of the people out there who are doing that are people who are doing their own real original sort of stuff, that are looking deeper into it. 2% of all of those are the true innovators, the ones who channel new, completely new information, absolutely new, the kind of information that could be patentable because nobody's thought about it before, as opposed to the 80% who are copying each other, who are ripping somebody off and using that to make a business. Standard human stuff. In the spiritual realm, we get the same thing. We have 80% of what's going on being passed off as spiritual advice or life coach or whatever, are sort of spiritual charlatans. In the ancient pathways, to become something like a life coach is laughable. What, are you going to go and get a diploma in life coach? From who? The ancient traditions life coach, whatever the equivalent that would be shaman. Shaman is a tradition that passes from one to the other. You train. It's like the Jedi Knight or something. You don't just get elected for that. You don't go to school for that. You don't get a diploma for that. You arise a level of your consciousness to a new level, which is ascertained by higher spiritually realized beings who can see directly into your energy field. There's no lying here. There's no course you have to take. There's an apprenticeship. And who gets to be an apprentice is chosen by the enlightened ones because they can see your energy field and they know that this is your path, and they pull you out of the crowd and you get initiated. Those traditions are gone, except in minuscule little pocket areas of the world where it used to be the main way that human beings were organized together in clans and villages, and where you grew up with your mother and your father and your aunts and your uncles and all the people that you grew up with were always together for your whole life. The concept of a babysitter was a joke. Babysitter. And there were traditions of the ancient ones, the enlightened ones, the shamans, who would guide the spiritual evolution of the souls of the clan, of the tribe. And there were traditions for the young men in their rite of passage to manhood, from boy to man, in a ceremony by the men's group and the shaman that led that, and the women's group at the point of when the first ovulation took place, and the first period, a sacred event, the cosmic doorway through which human beings are born into the world. This was a sacred thing beyond measure. the worship of the goddess, the universal doorway through which we all come. And the first ovulation and the first period was the beginning of that doorway maturing, and it was greatly honored. And those women were put in a special place and went through a special ceremony, and those ceremonies are all gone. Those traditions are gone. So the world has gone profoundly astray. As we talked before about the indigenous self, we've lost our indigenous self. And as a society of human beings, we've lost our connection with our indigenous world. We've lost our indigenous self, and we have lost our connection with the world at large and living beings that populate the planet. Every other living being conforms to natural laws automatically, and we have stepped outside those laws and look upon the world as if it belongs to us somehow, to do with as we please. We're the only ones who think that way. Human beings tend to organize themselves in a way that only two other incidences in the world conform to the way that human beings operate on planet Earth. One is a virus that kills the host. And so the present pandemic is a perfect metaphor where the universe is, pushing our nose in who we are. The pandemic of a virus that invades your body and takes it over and kills you is what human beings are doing to the planet. Unlimited growth. That's what a virus does. It continues to multiply and multiply and multiply and take over your body until there's none of you left to survive, and it kills you. And that's what we see, unlimited growth. The stock market, has to always be growing, because if it stalls, everybody freaks out because we might have a recession where it's not growing anymore. Well, excuse me, in a closed environment, you can't have unlimited growth. The math doesn't work out. Population explodes and continues to explode and continues to explode until the whole planet is covered with people, and the resources aren't enough for everybody, so now you've got war and famine and weird stuff going on. Unlimited income, unlimited money. The stock market has to grow and grow and grow, which means the investments in the stock market have to have more and more money and more and more money and more and more money being bought. And that means that corporations have to grow and grow. Their bottom line has to get bigger every year, or that's also red flags going off. But you can't have unlimited growth in a company unless you are selling more and more and more goods. And the only way you can sell more and more and more goods is to have more and more people. Therefore, overpopulation of the planet is built into the system. It can't work. There's something wrong up here. Because in natural systems, every living being on the planet has a territory that is set. And you don't grow out of that territory. That is your territory. That is your right to be able to live and have food and hunt and have a clan. And all those territories butt up against each other. And every single creature has some kind of way of communicating, this is my territory. A bird chirping and singing in a tree. This is my territory. That's what it's doing there. It sounds beautiful to us, from a aesthetic standpoint, but from the bird standpoint, this is my territory. That's what's going on there. This is how I mark my territory. And all other life forms respect that. They won't go into that territory because under the hood at a deep instinctual level, all living beings realize that it's limited resources and we are in a symbiotic relationship with each other. That we don't extend out beyond those bounds, except for human beings, which have decided, you know what, this is mine and yours is mine too. Everything is mine. And you all belong to me. And I can do whatever I want to with you without any conscience or I'm stepping all over the world and destroying the planet in the name of profit. Always brings to mind to me sort of a line in a song from the 60s, they paved paradise and they put up a parking lot. Anyway, that's the Nowz, the spiritual Nowz for now. And of course, then I took the S off in order to make it, because my Nowz tend to be a little different than the usual Nowz or the usual news. So I had to put a Z on the end of this just to show that, I'm sort of, this kind of guy. Tends to be a little rude spiritually. And that's the Z. Put a Z on the end. And Z has significance esoterically, as I discussed once before in a previous live stream. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you scroll down, you'll see a broadcast on alphabetology where I discuss the letters in the alphabet and their esoteric meaning, and an analysis of your name. Which letters do you have and where are they placed? I did rummage around and actually found, for this broadcast, my original document from the late 60s, early 70s, when I was exploring alphabetology. I was a professional, I did professional numerology at that point, but I had some revelations and came up with this new method of analyzing which letters you've got in your name. And this was my original research into that. You can sort of see a document of every single letter of the alphabet and everything there is known about that letter. This is the letter A, this page. At the top is A, and the second one down is B and C. For instance, B is a sonant labial mute, lip voice stop consonant. The second letter of the Roman alphabet, corresponding to and in form derived from the Greek beta and Hebrew beth, representing the sonant labial mute or lip voice stop consonant. B, b, B. It's a labial. B, lips, B. And it means that it's a sonant labial mute, b, B, or a lip voice stop consonant. So it's an instant letter, b, instead of s, which is not, right? It goes on anyway. Used to indicate serial order with the value of second, the left-hand page, or verso of a leaf, the second column of a page. Also in music, in England, the seventh note of the scale of C major, called H in Germany, where B means the English B flat, a semitone lower than B. In the law, B is put for a second or another person or thing. A, B, C, etc. stand for known quantities, X, Y, Z, unknown. So if B was a personality, what kind of personality would it be? Because it also has the letter 2. It would be a helpful person. It would always stand second. It would never stand ahead of everybody else. It would always be in the background helping someone. It would be a helper, not an initiator. Anyway, this. Where did I get a lot of this stuff? I got it also from this book. Webster's New International Dictionary. Look at this thing. This is where I got the information from. And at a certain point, I was wondering, in numerology, why is the consonants, why do those stand for mental activity, and why do the vowels stand for emotional activity? The answer was in this book. And in this book has, I don't even know how many thousands of pages. This page right here is 2,366. We're not even at the end yet. And in the beginning of this book, you can see here, Get this up. This book is amazing. So in the beginning of this book, we have, after the preface here, here we have a brief history of the English language, for God's sake. An entire history of the whole English language that is 600 pages long. Before you get this long, before you get to the letter A. And in that history of the English language, it explains in great detail where English came from, the Phoenician roots and the Sumerian roots and all the rest. Drawn from different languages, the Germanics and the French. It also explains in detail what is a consonant and what is a vowel. A vowel is those letters that you can pronounce where you do not touch your lips or your tongue or your teeth together in any way. The mouth is just open and changes its shape. It's the most direct access of the breath coming out without attenuation. Attenuation of the breath is a consonant, where I do touch my tongue to the roof of my mouth, or I touch it to my teeth, or I touch my lips together, or do something to actually constrict that breath when it comes out. And since breath is closely associated with emotions, right? I have an emotional state that changes my breathing and my heart rate, right? I get excited, I breathe harder. I get calm, I breathe slower. The heart rate goes down. Breath is directly related to emotional states. So that's why the most unrestricted of the mouth to the breath coming out, which would be vowels, would be emotional, the highest level of emotions. A, E, I, O, U. Nothing touches. Sometimes Y. So if, you have a vowel as the first letter of your first name or the first letter of your last name, this is important. You're an emotional type person. So Z as the last letter of the whole alphabet, the 26th letter, 2 plus 6 equals 8. So its master number is 8, which is an executive function number. 8 does well in the material world, organizing the material world, and naturally is successful in whatever it tries to organize. But this particular type of 8 comes from a 2 and a 6, the 26th letter. So both of 2 and 6 are female rounded numbers. They're even numbers, so they're female. And that means they're helpers. 2 is a helper. 6 is a connoisseur of the arts and music and has an innate understanding of the beauty of things, becomes a patron of the arts. So even though Z is a masculine letter because of its sharp angles, it's not rounded, and its diagonals is like lightning. Z is a mental letter with emotional underpinnings because of the 2 and the 6. Anyway, aside from all of that, if I, go back and look up Z in the big book, Z has a number of different things that it says about it. It's a whole paragraph long about the history of Z and all the different ways that Z can have in the law, what Z means and what. And one of the things that I saw was electrical impedance has to do with Z. So an electrical impedance is the measure of the opposition that a circuit represents to a current when a voltage is applied. So now, as a personality type, Z represents impedance. That means that Z is the last letter that is dynamic and mental and active and represents impedance. A Z type of person has your back, just like the Z has the back of the entire alphabet. Just as A at the first would be the great explorer, the first on the scene, the one that always jumps forward first, the leader. Z leads from behind. The people don't know that a Z personality has led them. They think they did it themselves because Z has their back. And Z runs interference, just as electrical impedance does. It carries the resistance to unfettered energy just zooming through. It attenuates that. It concentrates on it. It tames it. It resists the just completely uncontrolled energy moving through things, because destruction can happen there if there's not some way of attenuating things. I never know where these conversations are going to go when I start. I do my PowerPoint and I create a soundtrack, and I've got a general idea, but once my mouth opens, God knows what's going to come out. So anyway, so in the news, or in this case, the Nowz with a Z, here we've got the newest of the news, the nowest of the nows, right? A new theory on time indicates present and future exist simultaneously. The box universe theory describes now as an arbitrary place in time and states that the past, the future, and the present all exist simultaneously. Well, there's a Nowz. What's in the Nowz? And this seems to be an astounding kind of concept. The present is all that exists, and past and future and present are all folded into the same place. And we've discussed this before. And here we are, a new theory by the scientific community that indicates present and future exist simultaneously. Well, excuse me, that's not actually a new theory. This whole idea of the past and the present and the future is an ancient theory. This is not a new discovery of science. This is scientists rejecting the ancient and not paying attention to it, and then having to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again because they don't pay attention. And the ancient information doesn't belong to their club, so to speak. So they've got a new theory. Excuse me, it's not a new theory. It's an ancient theory. It goes all the way back before the Vedas. And the Vedas are 4,000-year-old texts. This is just when they wrote it down. The oral tradition of this theory went for thousands and thousands of years before anybody came along with a language that you could invent and then write it down, a written language. That takes thousands and thousands of years to come up with language and a written form of language. And then even after that, it would take thousands of years before somebody actually wrote these theories down. And these theories, once they're written down, are themselves 4,000 years old. So, excuse me, no, not a new theory. Once again, this is science laying claim to something that is ancient, that they didn't discover at all. The Vedas deeply discuss the issue of the present is all that is here, and the past and future are folded into it. All past and future events are here, now. So, yes, the Vedas is where actually that came from. And who thought it up before it was written down? Who? The enlightened ones, the ones I discussed before, the ones who relied on experimental delving into the deepest regions of the inside of your deep collective unconscious, where all information is, where all answers and questions arise from the same place, where no stone is left unturned. The ancient ones, the enlightened ones, could go inside and get these answers and make these new discoveries. But at some point we deviated from that, as I said before. We deviated from our indigenous natural development of the soul and consciousness, and we went astray and began to no longer believe in the validity of what information may be gleaned from going deep within your own soul and deep within the core and the heart of the universe to find the answers now in the present moment, where all questions and answers are revealed to those who have spent their lives perfecting themselves. Those days are over in the 21st century. And once you start no longer trusting the information that comes from the deep part of inside of you, the only place left to go is to find those answers from the outside of you. And in order to trust them, that's where science comes in. Science is relying completely and totally on, quote, objective evidence from the external universe and repeated double-blind studies and tests to come up with the same information that the ancients came by going deep within and perfecting themselves as the ultimate scientific instrument of inquiry into the nature of reality itself. Once that was abandoned, all that was left was a hollow core and searching in the outside with greater and greater technologies to find the answers. I'm not the only one who thinks this way, of course. We now have a whole thing that's called quantum Vedas, where we have arrived at a full circle where the present level of understanding of quantum physics and Nobel Prize-winning physicists are describing a level of reality that is thousands and thousands of years old, already well versed in the Vedas. So the idea of the quantum Vedas, where science discovers the ancient texts, where the external search that we now have to rely on with our equipment and our atom smashers and all the rest, and our math, to prove what we already knew to be so by going on the inside, by perfecting this machine, instead of externalizing and creating external machines and then relying on those for our information. The two of these worlds have now come together, that more and more the external math and machines that we rely on to smash atoms apart to find the core of the quantum field, and what we see there is what is described in the Vedas. There is nothing there. There is energy pattern relationships in a state of vibration forming standing waves, and the Vedas describe that in great detail. That is consciousness itself, and those ripples in the time-dimensional continuum of the core substrate of the quantum field. What's vibrating is consciousness itself. And what is the vibration? It's a flippant idea. It's a dream that the Godhood is having, and this is the dream. It's an infinite number of corridors of every possible thing that could ever happen in the mind of God is being fleshed out in an infinite number of corridors of the dream from every possible aspect that ever be. And they're all playing forward simultaneously, and they all issue forth from this present moment now, where it's all contained in one place. Concept of the past and future folded into the present, now is the only place and the only thing that actually truly exists, and everything is contained within it as a seed. Once consciousness arrives here, consciousness has access to all the corridors, all the infinite number of corridors, in all past and all future possibilities. And you also in this moment have the possibility of stepping into any of those corridors you wish. My concept of the spontaneous remission of stage 4 cancer. I decide to step out of this corridor that I'm currently in, where I die of cancer, as predicted, and step into a parallel corridor where that doesn't happen. And the cancer just, I don't have it in that corridor. So when I step into that corridor, it just disappears. We call it a spontaneous remission. It's just choosing which corridor of reality you wish to experience. And that requires a level of expertise of how do I get to that place in myself right now, before a thought, in the present moment, where I can make that decision, and where in myself do I make that decision? It's not here, it's before a thought. It's in my big mind self. And how do I find this place? How do we get to this place? The most efficient way that human beings have found to get to this place is the use of sound as a helping tool to bring me here, to center me in the present. Tibetan bowls and chant and mantra and gongs and all of it. That's where that comes from, that tradition. Now we just have new high-tech tools to refine it to a level that's never been possible before. The concept of brain entrainment was already by the Tibetans 3,000 years ago, Tibetan bowls. You rub the bowl, there's a pulse inside, it's a brainwave speed. It entrains you. It helps you, bang, to get to this place faster. Now we can do it with binaural beats and headphones and technologies and be precise. We can analyze your brain with EEG. We can see exactly what it looks like when you go to these places, and then we can entrain you there. The tools have gotten better, astoundingly better, mind-bogglingly better. As the course of things draws the quantum field scientists and the Vedas together at a single point in time and space, which is now, 21st century, where we have gone so far astray that we have practically destroyed the planet's ability to support our life form. The whole world is about to go over the cliff, and we are here to help to stop that, to transform the world. That's why we're here. That's why the live streams are here. That's why the concept, the mind link, to bring the collective unconscious together in a underneath the hood realm, where we can arrive in the present moment and step onto that precipice of the doorstep of what the next moment is going to be, and step into any corridor of reality we wish to choose. The ones that are there available for us to choose are the ones that we have to understand what is it we want. What kind of world would we like to have? And the kind of world that I can see that I would like to have is the one where the universe uses all of us for the best possible, highest expression of the most powerful divine that you can imagine. That's what I want. Heaven on earth. I guess essentially this is what I want. After I thought about it for a while, I thought, you know what? I want to come back as a cat in a good home. Sunk dead center in the middle of the present moment with a smile and a purr. New Nowz. Do we create space-time? A new perspective on the fabric of reality. For the first time, it is possible to see the quantum world from multiple points of view at once. This hints at something very strange, that reality only takes shape when we interact with each other. Excuse me, not a new idea. This is once again back to the Vedas and the ancient Sanskrit texts. It's also older texts from China, the I Ching. I talk about this very thing, the very thing that is described here. Excuse me, for the first time? No, I don't think so. Once again, nope. Wrong. This is not a new discovery. Scientists haven't discovered something new. They've only rediscovered something that they rejected out of their minds because it's not part of the scientific club. Excuse me. No, this is where it started. And before, the written word is where it started. This is a Carl Jung idea as well. This is the collective unconscious mind that is being described here. You know, Reality only takes place when we interact with each other. That is the collective unconscious mind. That all of us under the hood, the deepest place we can go under the hood, where our individual big mind that designs my body out of two cells meets the bigger collective mind that creates the whole universe, populated with allegories and imagery and the deep unconscious mind archetypes, the collective unconscious mind, the big mind. We're way up here someplace. We think this is the whole business. No. A personal unconscious where I can, my big mind under my personal hood, where the part of me knows how to grow my body out of two cells and differentiate the tissues and make me what I am and make it run on automatic without me thinking about it. That's this part. This part down here is the universal equivalent of that. The mechanisms that make the entire universe run on automatic. That's this part. That's all of us by consensus vote. In addition to our immediate consciousness, which is of a thoroughly personal nature, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, impersonal nature, which is identical in all individuals. You dig deep enough down below your personal collective unconscious mind, you get into the ultimate collective unconscious mind that dictates reality itself, moment by moment by moment. Ancient ideas, not new. The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution, born anew in the brain structure of every individual. All of it, a fractal, everything reflected in and out of each other. All possible corridors of time and space meet at a single point in the present moment. The grand collective unconscious mind. Deep under the ocean, which is one of the biggest symbols of the collective unconscious mind, is the ocean. Deep down at the bottom of that ocean is the big mind that we all share, same mind we all share. New Nowz. Does quantum mechanics reveal that life is but a dream? A radical quantum hypothesis casts doubt on objective reality. Well, this isn't new either. This isn't even new in the news. I've discussed this before a year ago. The whole concept of objective reality has been rejected by the scientific community. The quantum physicists have rejected that. There is no objective reality. Newtonian physics says there's an objective reality whether people are here or not, and quantum physics proves otherwise, that objective reality doesn't exist. Reality that we know, nebula and galaxies and stars and planets and all this stuff I've got around me and you, it's a potential to be, but the potential doesn't pop into something until consciousness arrives on the scene to witness it. Only then does it pop into reality. And that means that when I look over this way, all the things behind me cease to exist because I'm not witnessing them. This is pretty heavy-duty stuff. And, once again, excuse me, no, it's ancient stuff. It's the same. It's the ancient ideas where people delved all this already by going inside themselves and developing the ultimate organic machine that can ferret out all these secrets. The ultimate organic internalized atom smasher. Back in the Vedas, we talk about the Godhead sunk into the ultimate dream of all time, the dream of dreams, where every possible corridor of every possibility of every universe that could ever be, and all the stories that take place in all the beings in all those universes, infinity times itself, forever, and all past and future events, is the grand dream of the biggest Godhead mind that could be conceived, exploring every possibility of anything that could possibly be, every story that could possibly be told, all of it being expressed in an infinite number of parallel corridors of everything that could possibly be, all have their root now in the present moment. So when I arrive here in the present moment, I have access to all of them. I can live any of them out. We even learned this when we were children. I remember this. Don't dream your life, but live your dream. Here's where we learned it as children. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream. Wow. Time and space, past and future, everything folded into the present moment of me, now, experiencing myself being alive. Chop wood, carry water. The most sacred act you can do is wash a dish. Open a door. Take your next breath. That's what the ancients say. That the deepest part of my collective unconscious mind is an infinite number of stories of all possible things that could ever be. My present experience is one of those, but I can change it. I can go into a place of myself and manipulate what that's going to be if I get to the right place. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. We discussed this last time. Science has discovered the place in the brain where the unconscious mind meets the conscious mind, the conduit, where those two meet physically. It's the insula, right? It's that zone that's, you peel these lobes of the brain away and down inside there is the insula. That is the connection point between the unconscious and the conscious mind. Where the blueprint is read for the next infinite number of corridors and what they're going to be and who I'm going to be. Me opening the doorway of my personal self into the infinite corridors of all time that meet in the present moment before time and before space. That's the place we're trying to get to. Sound is the ultimate tool throughout all history in every culture. That's been the El Primo tool that stood the test of time to help do that. And now is no exception here with us, with our little headphones and our technologies and our sound thing in 3D with brain entrainment to put us more effectively in this place where we can access it, change anything we wish to whatever we wish. So, that being said, take a big breath, close your eyes, and with your headphones on, here we go. So pay attention to developing your deep inner baloney meter, the baloney meter, the bullshit meter. Don't ever accept anything at face value. Very few people come from your pure place. Most people have an alternate agenda that they're trying to sell you something or put something over to you to get something from you. When you find people that that is not their agenda, that is a soul brother. That is an essence friend. That's the love of your life. Be in constant awareness of that deep part of you that knows, that can feel the perturbation of the disturbed energy field of an alternate agenda. And develop yourself as a pure spirit where that is pure coming out from you. You'll attract those people. Meantime, thank you all profoundly for being here with me and joining me in these crazy madcap things that we're doing. I think this is number 94, 95, good God. And until next Sunday.